What's going on, guys? This is Foresight Capital, and today we're going to talk about a quick update from Palantir's price action from last week, including what caused their stock to spike more than 25% and close at fresh all-time highs. Now, in my last video, I mentioned that I thought Palantir would ultimately close out Friday under $27.70 per share, to which a lot of you went back to that video and let me know in the comments that I was wrong and I was off by more than 20%. And to that, I have to say, I would rather be underestimating a stock by about 20% in any given week than to overestimate one and people buy it and it go down 20%. So I'm glad that I was wrong by about 20% on Palantir. There was some news that came out that really kind of shifted everything, so I also want to give some updated expectations moving forward. Now, if this video brings you value, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, consider subscribing because it really helps this channel reach more people. And if you're really interested in what I'm buying or selling, I actually put out every single time I buy or sell a stock in the Discord for this channel, which has over 175 members. There are a lot of great conversations going on stocks to buy and sell, and I have a dashboard out that lists every single one of my trades, including the overall profit or loss and which ones are still open. So if you're truly interested in what I'm buying and selling, or want a daily watch list with the charts attached with it, I put those out every day as well. Check that out in the link in the description below. It's been a lot of fun so far and a really quickly growing community. So overall, Palantir pretty much followed my plan for the week, using 2770 as resistance early on in the week and then fading a bit throughout the week until touching this shorter term uptrend line that we've seen highlighted by this pink diagonal line. And when we had the price touch that early morning on Friday morning, the stock really bounced and started to trend upward. And right around the time that the stock started trending upward, we also had a pretty big news announcement from Palantir with some updated information on demo day that could really change the outlook of the stock moving forward. So we'll talk about that in just a moment, but throughout the rest of the day, we really saw the stock spike in price, heading to a high of about $32.87, depending on your exchange, which did not touch fresh intraday highs, but Palantir actually closed at a new all-time high closing price of just over $32 per share. Now, when we set fresh all-time highs back at the end of November, we hit $33.50 per share, but ultimately closed that day a little closer to $31 per share with a pretty big pullback. So this was a very bullish event for Palantir if you're looking at the technical side of things, because closing at fresh all-time highs and a momentum like this really leaves a lot of room for running in the next couple of days. Now we have 2 full trading days before demo day. So demo day is on the 26th, but it's at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we've got the entire trading day Monday and the entire trading day Tuesday to trade along with this momentum and potentially see a breakout to fresh intraday highs as early as Monday. Now, the news announcement that came from Palantir is that they gave some updated information on what they anticipate talking about during demo day, where they're going to show off Foundry and Gotham, and they're also going to highlight their modular strategies, including the announcement and demonstration of new software modules, and it lists out the software modules there. That was largely expected all along from demo day, that they were going to try to pick up some more commercial and consumer business and shy a bit away from the government contracts, or not necessarily shy away from them, but try to diversify their revenue. At least that's what a lot of investors are hoping. And so we're hoping to see from demo day Palantir reaching out more towards the commercial side of the business and demonstrate some of their software solutions there. But the most important thing that I think that came from this news announcement was actually buried in the last paragraph, and it mentions that Palantir will discuss its latest developments on Apollo, which is the company's continuous delivery and infrastructure platform, and Apollo ensures that their 2 primary revenue drivers, Foundry and Gotham, can be used by consumers in any environment. And then the last sentence here, in Q4 of 2020, Apollo managed 150,000 upgrades per week across environments, up from 40,000 upgrades in Q2 2020. Now, I pulled up their S1 here, which is their filing for when they were going public, and I looked up upgrades, and they really mentioned upgrades about 7 times throughout the document. And upgrades are essentially where their engineers can manage installations of their software into client software and they were basically running at about 20,000 upgrades per week in quarter two of 2019 and doubled that to 41,000 per week in quarter two of 2020. Now, keep in mind, we have yet to announce quarter four earnings. Even though we're in 2021, we're still talking about 2020 numbers here. Palantir mentioned that in quarter four 2020, Apollo managed 150,000 upgrades per week across environments, which is more than 3 times what they managed in quarter two 2020. So basically, in we bridged quarter three here, and we're talking about quarter four. So basically, in a 2-quarter time span, they were able to more than 3x the number of software upgrades that they're able to do for their clients. That could be absolutely huge for Palantir moving forward, because while we're not entirely sure how their revenue is derived, if it's on a per upgrade or per use basis, or whether or not these companies are signing fixed contracts, we know that the government contracts largely are fixed, but there isn't a ton of information on the consumer commercial side on how exactly the revenue is derived. Hopefully more information on that becomes available in the future. But if they're able to grow at this rate, then they probably are likely to have underestimated their revenues. Now, the Motley Fool has an article here that's talking about Palantir's revenue of 743 million in 2019, and that they have estimated for Palantir's full year sales to be about 1.07 billion. That may or may not reflect Palantir's recently released news that they've more than tripled the number of upgrades that they were able to do for their clients. And if it does not reflect that, then they may have extremely underestimated revenue, and that means that the stock could be being valued substantially less than its true value in the market. And there was one other news announcement that was important to note. This was also a release by Palantir, and that's that they're going to be providing technology to enhance the safety and reliability for PG&E, which is California's largest investor-owned utility company. And it is a multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract that marks the first time Palantir's Foundry software is being used by a major U.S. utilities operation. So they're shying a bit away from the government contracts here and leaning a bit more into the consumer and commercial side of the business, which is important information. Now, we don't really have a ton of information on how many years the contract is or how many millions of dollars it is, but just having a new contract announcement on the commercial side of the business is extremely good news for Palantir and shows that they're still continuously growing their consumer side of the business. Now, this was actually posted on January 19th, and what was interesting is we've seen since January 19th not a real big spike in price and actually a fade all throughout the week. So investors didn't really price that very positively in the price action for Palantir, and in fact, it had really hit a low for the week before the news came out of the upgrade, of the upgrades increasing by over 200% throughout Q4 of 2020. So there wasn't a whole lot of reaction from the investor side to the contract. Possibly it's because it didn't have revenue numbers, or that the investors just kind of overlooked it. It's really hard to tell, but very exciting news that Palantir has put out these increases in production and potential increases in revenue ahead of Q4 2020. So my expectations then moving forward are that we see a continuation of this run. It's almost guaranteed that we're going to see at least a test of the 3350. That's what I would be planning for. I wouldn't necessarily be jumping in to buy this stock at this range personally. Now, I bought back on January 5th, right around when Palantir bounced off of the 2260 lows that we had been talking about. So I have a position from about 2280. That's a lot of downside protection. Now, I'm not making any investment advice here, by the way. This is just me talking about how I would be trading the stock. I wouldn't necessarily be adding to my position because we could see a bit of a pullback. But I think that we're at least going to make a run towards 3350. And if the momentum stays there and if investors stay bullish, we could really realistically see a break above 3350. And if we do, I would expect to see some very heavy volume come in as people get excited about breaking out the new all-time highs. And from there, I don't necessarily have a price target. I mean, it could really run towards $40 per share. It's so hard to tell when investors really get behind these companies and the exuberance comes back in. But my expectation is to see a continuation of this run all the way through at least demo day, and depending on what happens during demo day, possibly a continuation of that run all the way through Q4 earnings, which would give this a 2+ week runway to consistently increase in price. But definitely let me know your price target down in the comments below. As I mentioned, I don't necessarily have one, but I am curious to know where you think this stock is going to end up by the end of the week. A lot of you called it 30 plus by Friday, and I definitely underestimated that, so I'll be the first to admit that I was wrong there, but curious to see what your thoughts are. And again, if you've yet to check out the Discord, check that out in the link in the description below. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of great information shared, and you might just catch your next big stock trade there. Thanks for stopping by and watching until the end. Catch you in the next one.